Emma couldn't remember the last time she had felt truly calm. The rain poured outside her apartment window, streaking the glass like the worry lines she had begun to notice on her own face. She sat curled up on the sofa, staring at the droplets racing downward, feeling a knot in her stomach that refused to loosen. Lately, Alex had been different. He used to call her during lunch with a quick joke or a compliment, and now his phone buzzed constantly, but he always tucked it away the moment she looked up. He came home later than usual, said less than usual, and even the little things he used to do, like brewing her coffee just the way she liked it, had stopped. At first, Emma told herself she was imagining things, that work stress, or a long week was enough to explain the distance. But the small moments began to pile up, stacking on top of each other until they formed a wall she couldn't ignore. The way he jumped when his phone lit up, the quiet sighs he tried to hide, the distracted smiles he offered that didn't reach his eyes. All of it seemed like signals pointing toward something she feared, but couldn't confirm. The more she tried to push the thoughts away, the louder they became. Her friends told her not to jump to conclusions, reminding her that relationships go through stressful patches, but when she looked at Alex, all she could see was a stranger hiding behind the man she loved. That night, the tension became unbearable, and she knew she had to confront him before the anxiety consumed her entirely. When Alex finally walked through the door, tired from work and smiling faintly, she felt a mix of love and dread twist in her chest. She couldn't even start the conversation gently, the words poured out before she could control them. "Alex, are you cheating on me?" she asked, her voice trembling with fear and anger. The question hung in the air between them, heavy and sharp. Alex froze, his hand still on the door handle, and his eyes widened with shock. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came for a moment. "What? Emma, where is this coming from?" he finally asked, his voice calm but confused, carrying the hint of hurt she hadn't expected. Emma felt the panic inside her swell, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. I just feel it. I can't ignore it anymore," she whispered, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. She watched as Alex sank into a chair, looking more vulnerable than she had ever seen him. "Emma, I would never cheat on you. I've been stressed with work." "I didn't mean to make you feel neglected," he said, his voice soft, almost pleading. But Emma's mind had already gone somewhere else. The unease, the fear, the little signs she had noticed, all had convinced her that something was wrong, and no amount of explanation could reach through the wall of doubt she had built in her mind. She wanted to believe him, she truly did, but a quiet, insistent voice in her chest kept whispering that she couldn't trust him, not yet. The silence between them stretched long enough that the sound of the rain filled the room, each drop echoing the tension. Emma turned away for a moment, trying to steady her breathing, trying to convince herself that maybe she was being unfair, but the knot in her stomach refused to loosen. Alex reached out, gently touching her hand, and she felt a jolt of warmth, a reminder of why she loved him in the first place. But it also made her heart ache, because the thought of betrayal had already planted its roots. "I love you, Emma," Alex said quietly, his eyes searching hers for understanding, for a shred of trust. But she didn't respond, unable to speak, unable to accept the comfort he offered. She just sat there, heart racing, mind spinning, wondering if she was about to destroy something beautiful for fear that had no real evidence behind it. In that moment, as the rain poured and the room felt smaller with every heartbeat, Emma realized that the night would not end with answers, only more questions, more tension. And the uneasy knowledge that her love was being tested in a way she never wanted. She didn't know it yet, but the choice she made in that moment, whether to trust or to accuse, would change everything between them, and the consequences of that single trembling question would follow her in ways she couldn't even imagine. The window rattled in the wind, the rain forming tiny rivers on the glass, and Emma sat frozen, caught between love and doubt. Knowing that the next words she spoke could either bring them closer together or push them irreparably apart, Emma couldn't shake the weight of what had happened that night. And each passing day made it worse. Alex tried to reach out to her, sending messages and calling her, but Emma ignored them, her mind spinning with suspicion and fear. Every little thing he did now seemed like proof of what she had already decided in her head. When his phone buzzed while he was cooking dinner, she watched him out of the corner of her eye, convinced he was hiding something. She checked his expressions, the way his hands moved, how his eyes flicked to the screen, and interpreted every pause and hesitation as a secret. Friends told her to calm down, to trust him, to give him the benefit of the doubt, but Emma felt trapped in her own thoughts. As if the very love she had for Alex had become a blindfold keeping her from seeing clearly. The moments that once made her smile, the way he laughed, the small gestures he did for her, the way he would leave notes on her desk at work, now seemed like distractions. Like clever tricks to hide the truth. Each night, Emma went to bed restless, turning over every little memory, searching for signs she could point to as proof. And each morning she woke up with her mind made up before the day had even begun. Finally, after days of silent tension, she decided she couldn't wait any longer, she needed answers, even if they hurt. When Alex came home that evening, tired and smiling faintly, she met him at the door with her heart pounding and a question burning on her lips. "I need to know the truth, Alex. Are you seeing someone else?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady, but trembling under the weight of her fear. Alex stopped in his tracks, his hands frozen mid-motion, and he stared at her with a mix of shock and hurt. "Emma, no, absolutely not," he said, his voice calm but pained. "Why would you even think that?" Emma's chest tightened. She had been waiting for him to slip up, to say something wrong, to give her the proof she needed, but his words were steady, measured, and full of sincerity. And still her mind refused to believe them. "I saw the messages on your phone," she said, her voice rising despite herself. "I know you're hiding something from me." Alex's face fell. His eyes, full of shock and confusion, met hers, and Emma saw the hurt she had caused, but she couldn't stop herself. "Emma, those aren't what you think," he said, trying to reach for her hand, but she pulled back instinctively. "They are work messages, and I was planning a surprise for your birthday. I didn't want to ruin it." Emma froze, the words cutting through her like ice, and for a moment she wanted to believe him, but the doubt had become a shield she couldn't drop. Her mind went in circles, questioning every past moment, wondering if she had misread all the signals, or if he was simply an expert liar. Alex's voice softened. "I would never hurt you. I've been trying to be patient, but I can't show you everything at once. I just wanted to make you happy." Emma's eyes filled with tears, guilt fighting with suspicion, but her pride and fear kept her from letting go. The tension was thick, unbroken, as the room seemed to shrink around them. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, but the voice of doubt in her head screamed louder than anything else. "I can't just ignore how I feel," she whispered, feeling herself torn between love and fear. Alex sighed, the sound low and weary, and took a step back, letting her space, though his own heart ached. Emma turned away, her chest tight, wishing she could trust him but unable to. She wanted to reach for him, to let go of her fear, but the thought of being wrong terrified her more than the thought of losing him. For the next few days, silence grew between them like a wall, and Emma watched as the distance widened. She observed his every move, cataloguing the little things he did, each smile and word analyzed under the microscope of suspicion. Her mind raced, imagining worst-case scenarios and replaying every past interaction for signs of betrayal, while Alex, hurt and confused, tried to bridge the gap she had created, but met only resistance. The more she tried to protect herself from being hurt, the more she pushed away the one person who loved her without question. Her nights became long and lonely, and even the things she loved about him, the sound of his laughter, the warmth of his hands, the comfort of his presence, now felt like reminders of her own fear and mistrust. Emma wanted to believe him, she truly did, but the knot of anxiety in her chest wouldn't let her, and she began to wonder if love was enough to survive suspicion. Or if her own doubts had already destroyed what she held most dear. Days passed in silence, and Emma felt the heavy weight of her mistake pressing down on her chest like a storm that refused to pass. The apartment, once filled with laughter and shared conversations, now felt cold and hollow, each corner echoing with the absence of Alex's voice. She tried to busy herself with work, errands, and meeting friends, but nothing could push away the gnawing regret that settled in her stomach every morning. Even small things, like the sound of his favorite mug clinking against the sink, or the way he used to hum softly while cooking, made her heart ache with longing. She began to replay every moment she had accused him, every sharp word, every tearful confrontation, and each memory hit her like a wave she hadn't been prepared for. Emma started to question everything. Had she really read the signs wrong? Or had her fears made her imagine betrayal that never existed? Each scenario she conjured seemed worse than the last, and the more she thought, the more she realized how cruel her own mind had been, twisting harmless actions into imagined proof of lies. At first, she avoided looking at Alex's messages, fearing that seeing him reach out would make the guilt unbearable, but eventually, curiosity and desperation forced her to peek. She noticed his messages were polite, caring, filled with little jokes and reminders of things they had shared, and her stomach twisted as she realized she had read them completely wrong. Her heart raced, and tears spilled over as she understood the truth. Alex had never been unfaithful, he had never wavered, and her accusation had been entirely unfounded. The realization was like being punched with both relief and pain, relief that he hadn't betrayed her, but pain for the hurt she had caused the one person who loved her unconditionally. She felt sick at the thought of how his days must have felt, confused, hurt, rejected by someone he trusted most. Emma couldn't stop herself from calling his co-workers, trying to find some confirmation that would ease her racing thoughts, and that's when she learned the truth she had been blind to. Alex had been planning a surprise birthday party for her, secretly coordinating with friends and family so that she would feel special, loved, and cherished. Every message she had misread, every sudden glance at his phone, every distracted smile was not proof of betrayal, but evidence of his care, his thoughtfulness, and his desire to make her happy. The irony twisted her heart painfully, knowing that the very signs she had feared were actually signs of his devotion. Emma sat in silence for hours, her mind spinning with shame, guilt, and longing, wishing she could take back every word she had said, every accusation that had cut him deeper than any lie could have. She imagined Alex sitting alone in their apartment, replaying the confrontation in his mind, and it made her chest ache with remorse. Her friends tried to console her, but she couldn't accept their comfort. The only person she wanted forgiveness from was Alex, and she felt unworthy. That evening, she found herself pacing her living room, her hands trembling, knowing she could not wait any longer to speak the truth, to apologize, and to face the consequences of her fear. When she finally called him, her voice cracked, her words tumbling out like a dam breaking. Alex. I was wrong. I can't believe I accused you. I'm so sorry. The line was silent for a moment, and Emma's heart sank, expecting anger or rejection, but then Alex's voice came, soft, careful, and tinged with hurt. Yet still full of love. Emma. I love you. I was hurt, yes, but I understand. I just wish you had trusted me. Hearing him speak with kindness despite the pain she had caused cut through her guilt and made her realize the depth of the mistake she had made. She apologized again, her words rushed and desperate, promising that she would do better, that she would never let fear control her again. Alex paused before answering, and in that moment, Emma felt the fragile thread of their love hanging in balance. Finally, he said, I forgive you. But trust, we have to rebuild that. Those words, though gentle, carried the weight of truth. Forgiveness did not erase the past, and rebuilding would take effort, patience, and honesty. Emma felt tears streaming down her face as she realized she had been given a second chance, one she could never take for granted. The distance between them was still there, but hope flickered, fragile and tentative, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. She thought about the love they shared, the way Alex had always been there for her, and the way she had almost destroyed that by giving in to fear. That night, she made a silent promise to herself: she would earn back his trust, she would be patient, and she would never let doubt poison their bond again. Emma knew it would not be easy, and that love required more than just feeling. It required choice, courage, and the willingness to be vulnerable even when it scared her most. Sitting alone, reflecting on the days she had let suspicion rule her heart, she realized the truth of what love meant. It was messy, it could be frightening, but it was worth fighting for. Worth risking fear for, worth admitting mistakes for. The quiet of the apartment was no longer heavy, but soft with the possibility of reconciliation, and Emma allowed herself to imagine the future again, where she and Alex could heal together. Where mistakes could become lessons, and where love could grow stronger, because they had faced the storm and survived it. Emma couldn't sleep that night. Her mind racing with everything she had done, and everything she needed to say. She kept replaying the moment she accused Alex, the hurt in his eyes, the way he had tried to explain himself, and the way she had turned away, letting fear and doubt rule her. By morning, her chest ached with longing and regret, and she knew she could not wait any longer to make things right. She called him, her fingers trembling over her phone, voice shaky but determined as she said, "Alex, I need to see you. Please, just hear me out." The line was quiet for a moment before he answered, his voice soft, cautious, carrying both hope and wariness. They agreed to meet at their favorite park, a place where they had spent countless evenings together laughing, sharing secrets, and imagining a future they had once taken for granted. As Emma walked toward the park, her heart pounded with nervous anticipation, each step feeling heavy with the weight of her mistakes. She saw him there, standing by the fountain, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the path, and the sight made her chest tighten with a mix of fear and love. He looked exactly as she remembered, but the distance between them felt palpable, a reminder of the days lost to silence and suspicion. When he saw her, he smiled faintly, a small gesture that still carried warmth, but Emma noticed the shadow of hurt in his eyes, a silent testament to the pain she had caused. She approached him cautiously, each step a mixture of hope and fear, until they were standing face to face, the distance between them both physical and emotional. "Alex, I'm so sorry," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I accused you, I doubted you, and I hurt you in ways I can't even describe. I was scared, and I let that fear take control, but it was wrong. You didn't deserve any of it, and I need you to know that I regret everything." Alex looked at her, silent for a moment, and Emma felt her heart sink, fearing that she had lost him forever. Then, he spoke, his voice low and steady, "Emma. I was hurt, yes, but I love you. That hasn't changed. I needed you to trust me, but I understand fear. I forgive you, but we need to rebuild what was broken." Relief and gratitude surged through Emma, as she reached for his hand, feeling the warmth and reassurance she had missed so desperately. Their fingers intertwined, and for the first time in days, she felt the weight of anxiety begin to lift, replaced by a fragile but growing hope. They walked slowly through the park, sharing tentative smiles and gentle conversation, rediscovering the rhythm of connection that had been interrupted by doubt. Emma listened as Alex described the plans he had been making for her birthday, the messages she had misread, and the surprise he had carefully orchestrated. And each word made her heart ache with guilt and gratitude. She realized that everything she had feared had been nothing but a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation fueled by her own insecurities, and the depth of Alex's patience and love overwhelmed her. As the afternoon sunlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows on the ground, Emma and Alex found themselves sitting on a bench by the lake, talking quietly, laughing softly, and sharing thoughts they hadn't expressed in days. Emma admitted her fear, her self-doubt, and how easily suspicion had clouded her judgment, while Alex shared his hurt, his longing for her trust, and his hope that they could move forward together. With every word, the tension that had built between them loosened, replaced by a cautious but real connection, and Emma realized that love was more than feelings, it was work, effort, patience, and the courage to face mistakes and make amends. They watched the ducks glide across the water, the calm reflecting the possibility of peace between them, and Emma allowed herself to imagine a future rebuilt on honesty, care, and renewed trust. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, they leaned back, shoulders touching, hearts quietly mending, and Emma felt a deep, warm certainty that their bond, though tested, could survive anything as long as they were willing to communicate, forgive, and love without reservation. That evening, they walked home hand in hand, the silence no longer heavy but comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding, hope, and a shared commitment to grow together. Emma thought about how close she had come to losing everything over fear and misjudgment, and the thought humbled her, making her more determined than ever to cherish every moment, to listen more, to trust more, and to love more fully. She realized that mistakes, though painful, could become lessons, and that true love often demanded vulnerability, patience, and courage to admit wrongdoing. As they reached their apartment, she glanced at Alex, his eyes reflecting the fading sunset, and whispered softly, "Thank you for not giving up on me." He smiled, squeezing her hand gently, and replied, "We'll be okay. We'll rebuild this together." That night, Emma went to bed with a heart lighter than it had been in weeks, knowing that love was not perfect, that fear could test even the strongest bonds, but that forgiveness, trust, and a willingness to fight for each other could restore what had been broken. The storm of doubt had passed, leaving behind the quiet calm of hope, and Emma finally understood that love required risk, trust, and the courage to face one's own mistakes. She knew it wouldn't be easy, that rebuilding trust would take time, but she also knew that they had taken the first step toward healing, and that step, however small, was enough to bring them back to each other. Here's a continuation in the style you requested. Since the original story was structured in 4 parts, Part 5 can serve as a reflective, emotional epilogue that shows growth, reconciliation, and hope, keeping the audience engaged with fast pacing, simple language, and emotional resonance. Emma woke the next morning with a mix of relief and nervous excitement. The night with Alex had left her heart lighter, but she knew that rebuilding trust would not happen instantly, it would take time, patience, and effort from both of them. She made herself a cup of coffee, staring out the window as sunlight filtered through the blinds, thinking about how fragile love could be and how easily fear and misunderstanding could shake even the strongest bond. She realized that her own insecurities had created walls between them, walls that Alex had patiently tried to reach across without complaint. Determined to make things right, she decided to take small steps every day, to communicate honestly, to listen without judgment, and to prove through actions, not just words, that she was committed to their relationship. When Alex called to check on her, she answered with a calm voice, something she hadn't done in weeks, and they talked about simple things, plans for the weekend, updates about work, even silly jokes they used to laugh at together. The conversation felt different from before, warmer, more honest, and filled with a sense of mutual care that had been overshadowed by fear. Emma realized how much she had missed this, the effortless connection, the feeling that they were a team, and the quiet comfort of knowing someone loved her unconditionally. Over the next few days, they spent more time together, slowly rebuilding their rhythm. Alex was patient but cautious, his trust not yet fully restored, and Emma understood that she could not rush forgiveness or demand it. Instead, she focused on being present, showing kindness, and letting her actions speak louder than her words. She planned small surprises for him, left notes that reminded him of shared memories, and made an effort to notice the little things about him that she had taken for granted. Each time he smiled at her efforts, Emma felt a mixture of relief and joy, a reminder that love was not just about feelings, but about consistent care and attention. One evening, they went to their favorite little cafe, where they had first met, sitting at the same corner table and sharing a quiet meal. The conversation flowed easily this time, full of laughter and gentle teasing, a stark contrast to the tension that had filled their interactions weeks earlier. Emma noticed how natural it felt to be near him again, the way his presence calmed her, and the way her own actions now reflected a deeper understanding of their bond. They walked home hand in hand, the city lights reflecting in the puddles from a light rain, and Emma felt a quiet sense of hope settle over her. She understood that love required patience, effort, and forgiveness, and that the mistakes she had made could become lessons rather than scars if handled with honesty and care. That night, they sat on the couch, talking late into the evening, sharing thoughts they hadn't expressed before. And Emma realized that the fear and mistrust she had felt had forced them both to reflect on what mattered most: their connection, their honesty, and their willingness to forgive and grow together. Alex reached over and held her hand, a small gesture that carried enormous meaning, and Emma felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't known she could feel again after so many days of anxiety and regret. She apologized once more, quietly and sincerely, and he smiled, letting her know that words were no longer enough, but that they had moved past the worst of the storm. Over the next few weeks, Emma made it a habit to communicate openly, to check in with Alex without doubt clouding her mind, and to appreciate the little acts of love he showed daily. She noticed the way he left coffee on the counter in the morning, the way he remembered her favorite flowers, the small touches of thoughtfulness she had almost overlooked. And she realized that love thrived in these moments, not in perfection, but in attention and care. Their relationship slowly regained its balance, stronger for having endured the tension and fear, and Emma felt grateful for the opportunity to learn from her mistakes. One evening, as they watched the sunset together from the balcony of their apartment, Emma rested her head on Alex's shoulder and felt a sense of peace she hadn't thought possible weeks earlier. She understood now that fear could test love, that suspicion could create unnecessary pain, and that forgiveness required courage and humility. Alex held her close, and she whispered softly, "I'll never take this for granted again." He kissed her forehead gently, a silent promise that they would face life together, trusting each other fully. Learning to communicate without doubt clouding their hearts. Emma knew their journey wasn't over, that life would always test them in different ways, but the past weeks had taught her that love could survive misunderstanding and fear if nurtured with honesty, patience, and care. As they stayed in that quiet moment, watching the sky shift from orange to deep purple, Emma realized that mistakes, though painful, could lead to growth. And that the bond they shared was now deeper, because it had been tested and had survived. She smiled, feeling hope, gratitude, and renewed love, knowing that the fear that had once consumed her would no longer define their relationship, and that together they could face whatever came next with trust, understanding, and an unshakable commitment to each other.